The wind howls through the pines, carrying whispers of a night forgotten by time. February 24th, 1978. A small California town hums with the warmth of a basketball game, its lights a fleeting shield against the winter's bite. 5 friends, Jack, Ted, Bill, Jack, and Gary, step into the cold, their laughter swallowed by the darkness. They were supposed to come home, to families waiting with warm meals and open doors. But somewhere in the frozen depths of Plumas National Forest, their car stopped, and the forest claimed them. No tracks in the snow, no answers in the silence, only a mystery that clings like frost to the soul. This is Shadow of Crime, where we chase the shadows of the lost, unraveling stories that refuse to die. Tonight, we venture into the wilderness to uncover the chilling tale of the Yuba County Five, a case where the truth is as elusive as a ghost in the storm. Close the curtains. Turn out the lights. The forest is calling, and its secrets are waiting. Welcome to the Shadow of Crime. Part 1. A night swallowed by snow. The winter of 1978 cloaked Northern California in a brittle, unforgiving chill. In Chico, a sleepy college town nestled between the rolling foothills of the Sierra Nevada and the endless patchwork of Central Valley fields, the air was sharp with the scent of frostbitten earth and pine needles carried on a restless wind. On February 24th, the streets lay quiet under the pale glow of sodium vapor streetlights, their amber light pooling like liquid gold on the cracked pavement. Christmas had long faded, but the faint twinkle of holiday lights lingered on some porches, a stubborn nod to warmth in a season that offered none. In the distance, the hum of the local sports arena pulsed with life, a basketball game, the heart of a small-town Friday night, where the crowd's cheers echoed like a fleeting pulse against the encroaching darkness. 5 young men, Jack Madruga, Ted Weiher, Bill Sterling, Jack Hewitt, and Gary Mathias, stepped into this frozen night, their breath clouding in the air as they laughed and jostled, their voices carrying the careless joy of youth. Known in their hometown of Yuba City as the Boys, they were a tight-knit group, bound not just by friendship but by the shared weight of their differences. Each carried the label of special needs, a term that, in the 1970s, was both a diagnosis and a stigma, marking them as outsiders in a world that valued conformity. Yet, in their own way, they carved out a space of belonging, finding solace in each other's company in the simple rhythms of small-town life. Jack Madruga, 30, was the group's anchor, a lanky man with a quiet pride in his 1969 Mercury Montego, a gleaming white chariot he polished with the devotion of a knight tending his steed. Its chrome trim caught the streetlights, reflecting slivers of the world around it, a symbol of freedom for a man tethered by circumstance. Ted Weiher, 32, the eldest, had a gentle soul, his broad face softening with a smile that could disarm even the most guarded stranger. He loved his mother's cooking and the comfort of routine, his life acquired him to family. Bill Sterling, 29, was the introspective one, his hands often clutching a well-worn Bible, its pages dog-eared from countless nights of seeking answers in its verses. Jack Hewitt, 24, the youngest, hid his shyness behind a grin that lit up his freckled face, his eyes sparkling with a boyish mischief that belied his struggles. And then there was Gary Mathias, 25, the enigma, a former Army soldier whose sharp mind was shadowed by schizophrenia, a condition that sent him wandering through his own thoughts as often as through the streets of Yuba City. His dark eyes held a restless intensity, as if searching for something just beyond reach. That night, the 5 piled into Madruga's Mercury Montego, the car's engine rumbling to life with a low growl that echoed through Chico's quiet streets. They had come to watch their beloved UC Davis Aggies play, a rare treat that filled their evening with cheers and shared excitement. Tomorrow, they were set to compete in their own basketball game, part of a local league for people with disabilities, a chance to wear jerseys and chase dreams of medals under the bright lights of a community gym. Their families expected them home by midnight, the familiar routine of Yuba City waiting to enfold them, mothers setting out plates for late-night snacks, fathers glancing at the clock, siblings sprawled on couches watching grainy TV shows. But as the hours ticked past, the Mercury Montego never appeared. The phone lines stayed silent, and the lights in their family homes burned through the dawn, casting long shadows across empty driveways. 2 days later, on February 26th, a park ranger's flashlight beam cut through the darkness of Plumas National Forest, a remote wilderness 70 miles east of Chico. There, half buried in snow, stood Madruga's car, its white paint dulled by frost, its tires sunk into a drift on a desolate forest road. The keys dangled in the ignition, the gas tank half full, the engine cold as the grave. Candy wrappers littered the floor, crumpled soda cans glinted in the ranger's light, and a neatly folded map rested on the dashboard, as if the boys had planned a journey that ended in oblivion. The forest around was a cathedral of towering pines, their branches heavy with snow, whispering secrets in the wind that howled through the ravines. At 4,500 feet above sea level, the air was thin, the temperature plunging to 10 below zero at night. No tracks marred the snow around the car. The blizzard had erased any trace of the five. For the families, the discovery was a knife to the heart, a glimmer of hope wrapped in dread. For the investigators, it was a puzzle with no edges, a mystery that defied reason. Why had five men, terrified of the dark and unfamiliar, driven into a frozen wilderness far from home? And where had they gone, swallowed by a forest that seemed to guard its secrets with a predator's silence? Part 2. The Silent Forest. Plumas National Forest stretched like a dark, endless sea, its pines standing sentinel under a sky bruised with storm clouds. The snow fell in relentless sheets, blanketing the ground in a shroud that muffled sound and blurred the horizon. Search parties fanned out across the rugged terrain, their breath steaming in the frigid air, their boots sinking into drifts that seemed to pull them downward. Helicopters thrummed overhead, their blades slicing through the silence, but the dense canopy of evergreen swallowed their spotlight beams. Bloodhounds, their noses pressed to the ground, whimpered in frustration as the snow buried any scent. The forest was not just a place, it was a presence, vast and unyielding, its shadows hiding truths that no human could wrest free. The Mercury Montego stood like a ghost ship, abandoned on a road that led nowhere. Investigators circled it, their faces etched with confusion. The car was pristine, its doors unlocked, its windows frosted with ice. No skid marks scarred the snow, no dents marred the chassis. Inside, the air smelled of stale sugar and leather, a time capsule of the boys' last moments. Jack Madruga's jacket lay folded on the back seat, a strange relic for a man who cherished his belongings. A program from the basketball game, dated February 24th, was tucked under the visor, its edges curling as if kissed by the cold. The map, marked with faint pencil lines, showed no route to this forsaken place. The tank held enough gas to carry them home, yet here they were, stranded in a wilderness that offered no mercy. The road itself was a riddle. It climbed toward a mountain pass, a treacherous path locals avoided in winter, its curves slick with ice and choked with snow. Why had Jack Madruga, a cautious driver who knew every road in Yuba County, chosen this route? Had they been lost or led astray? The last confirmed sighting was at a Chico convenience store, where the boys bought snacks, chips, sodas, candy bars, laughing as they paid the cashier. She remembered their chatter about the game, their excitement for tomorrow's match. They were alive, vibrant, ordinary. Then, like a candle snuffed out, they were gone. In Yuba City, the families clung to fragments of hope. Imogene Weiher, Ted's mother, stood at her kitchen window, staring into the night as if her son might emerge from the darkness. Her hands, rough from years of work, twisted a rosary, her lips moving in silent prayer. Joseph Madruga, Jack's father, drove to the forest daily, his eyes scanning the trees for a glimpse of his son's car, now a cruel monument to loss. Bill Sterling's parents held prayer circles, their faith a fragile shield against despair. Jack Hewitt's mother pinned missing posters to every telephone pole in town, her son's smiling face staring back at her from grainy black and white flyers. Sharon Matthias, Gary's sister, sifted through his old letters, their pages filled with the jagged handwriting of a man wrestling with his own mind. Each family home became a shrine to absence, the silence louder than any scream. Rumors spread through Yuba City like wildfire. Some whispered that the boys had gotten lost, spooked by the dark and their own fears. Others spoke of a biker gang spotted near Chico that night, their leathers gleaming under streetlights, their eyes cold with menace. A few dared to mention the supernatural, tales of cursed forests where travelers vanished, their fates sealed by forces older than the trees. But for the sheriff's department, these were distractions. The reality was stark. 5 men, ill-equipped for survival, could not last long in a forest where the cold was a killer as merciless as any human. Part 3. A Witness in the Dark. 5 days after the disappearance, on February 29th, a flicker of hope pierced the gloom, or perhaps deepened the mystery. Joseph Shans, a 55-year-old from Sacramento, stumbled into the sheriff's office, his face pale, his hands trembling from cold and fear. His story was as strange as the forest itself. On the night of February 24th, he had driven through Plumas National Forest to check on his cabin, a remote retreat buried in the mountains. His car, a battered Volkswagen, slid into a snowbank on the same road where Madruga's Montego would later be found. Shans, plagued by heart trouble, felt a sharp pain in his chest as he tried to free the vehicle. Exhausted, he crawled back into the car, wrapping himself in a blanket to wait out the night. Around midnight, he said, headlights pierced the darkness, their beams cutting through the snow like knives. Voices drifted through the storm, men's voices, loud and tense, mingled with what Shans swore was a woman's, soft but distinct. He called out, his voice weak against the wind, begging for help. But the headlights blinked out, the voices fell silent, and the car vanished into the night. Hours later, as his pain eased, Shans saw figures moving through the forest, their flashlights bobbing like fireflies. He shouted again, but the lights retreated, swallowed by the trees. At dawn, he staggered to a gas station, his story fragmented by exhaustion and fear. Only days later, when news of the missing 5 broke, did he realize he might have seen them. Shans's account was a lifeline and a labyrinth. Was the car he saw Madruga's Mercury Montego, its white paint gleaming in the snow? If so, why did they ignore his cries? Who was the woman, a spectral figure in a case already thick with shadows? And why were the boys walking through the forest, their flashlights cutting paths through a wilderness that offered no refuge? Shans was an unreliable witness. His heart condition, the darkness, and the disorienting cold could have warped his memory. Yet his story planted a seed of unease. What if the 5 were not alone that night? What if something or someone lured them into the forest's embrace? Investigators pored over the details, their notebooks filling with questions. The boys' vulnerabilities, their fear of strangers, their reliance on routine, could have made them easy prey for panic or manipulation. Had they mistaken Shans for a threat, fleeing deeper into the woods? Or had they been fleeing something else, something that left no tracks but lingered in the air like a predator's scent? The forest, with its endless shadows, offered no answers, only echoes of a night that refused to be understood. Part 4. The Trailer in the Wilderness. Winter gave way to spring, the snow melting into rivulets that carved paths through the forest floor. The search for the 5 dwindled, the helicopters falling silent, the volunteers returning to their lives. In Yuba City, hope faded like a photograph left in the sun, the family's prayers growing quieter but no less desperate. The case slipped from the headlines, a footnote in a world that moved on. But on June 4th, 1978, the forest relented, revealing a truth as horrifying as it was baffling. A group of motorcyclists, their engines roaring through the trails, stumbled upon a Forest Service trailer, its metal walls rusted and half-hidden by overgrowth. The door hung ajar, a broken window gaping like a wound. Inside, they found Ted Weiher's body, wrapped in 8 layers of bedsheets, lying on a cot as if laid out for burial. His face, once round and warm, was gaunt, his beard grown long and tangled, a testament to weeks, perhaps months, of survival. He weighed barely 120 pounds, his frame ravaged by starvation and cold. The trailer, meant as a shelter, had become his tomb. The scene was a nightmare frozen in time. Cans of food, beans, soup, tuna lined the shelves, enough to sustain 5 men for weeks, yet not one was opened. Boxes of cookies, chocolate bars, and cereal sat untouched, their bright packaging a cruel mockery of the hunger that had killed Ted. A propane heater stood in the corner, its tank full, but no one had lit it. In a shed nearby, a gas can gleamed, its contents enough to warm the trailer through the harshest nights. Why had Ted, or whoever was with him, not used these resources? What force held them back from the simplest acts of survival? Days later, searchers found more remains. Jack Madruga and Bill Sterling's bones, scattered by scavengers, lay a mile from the trailer, their deaths marked by cold and exposure. 8 miles away, a hiker discovered Jack Hewitt's skull, identified by dental records, its empty sockets staring into the canopy. Gary Mathias was nowhere to be found. No body, no clothes, no trace. His absence hung like a specter over the scene, a question mark etched in the frost. The trailer became the heart of the mystery. How had 5 men, terrified of hunger and cold, ignored the food and warmth within reach? Why had Ted lingered in the trailer, wasting away while supplies mocked him? And where was Gary Mathias, the only one unaccounted for, his fate a void that swallowed every theory? The forest, with its silent pines and endless snow, seemed to laugh at the investigators' efforts, its secrets locked in a vault of ice and shadow. Part 5. Theories Wandering the Wilderness. Sheriff Jack Beecham stood in the trailer, his boots scuffing the dusty floor, his eyes tracing the outlines of a tragedy that defied logic. A puzzle without a key, he called it, his voice heavy with frustration. With no new evidence, the investigation turned to speculation, each theory a thread in a tapestry that refused to take shape. Theory 1. Lost in the snow. The simplest explanation was that the boys took a wrong turn, their car trapped by snow, forcing them to seek help on foot. Their disabilities might have clouded their judgment, turning confusion into panic. But this theory crumbled under scrutiny. Jack Madruga knew the roads of Yuba County like the lines on his hand. Why drive 70 miles into a wilderness with no destination? And why ignore the food in the trailer, a lifeline in a frozen hell? Theory 2. Pursuit. Some families believe the boys crossed paths with trouble after the game. Perhaps a biker gang or local toughs, their eyes glinting with malice under Chico's streetlights. A confrontation could have driven them into the forest, fleeing in fear. But the car showed no signs of a chase, no dents, no scratches. And no witnesses reported a conflict, leaving the theory as insubstantial as the wind. Theory 3. Mathias's mind. Gary Mathias's schizophrenia loomed large. Without his medication, he was a storm of paranoia and delusion, capable of leading his friends astray. His family recalled episodes where he wandered for days, lost in his own reality. Could he have convinced the others to follow him into the forest, driven by a vision only he could see? But how did he vanish, leaving no trace, while the others perished? Theory 4. Foul play. The darkest theory pointed to murder. Joseph Shanz's story of a woman's voice and flashlight-wielding figures suggested the boys weren't alone. Had they stumbled into a trap, a drug deal gone wrong, a vengeful stranger, a cult hiding in the forest depths? Yet no wounds marred the bodies, no signs of violence stained the snow. The theory lingered, a shadow without substance. Theory 5. The unexplainable. In Yuba City, whispers of the supernatural grew louder. Locals spoke of Plumas as a cursed place where lights danced in the trees and voices called from nowhere. Hikers reported eerie feelings, as if the forest watched them. Investigators scoffed, but the stories took root, fueled by the case's refusal to yield to reason. Each theory was a spark in the dark, illuminating nothing. The families, desperate for closure, clung to fragments, a candy wrapper, a map, a memory of laughter, hoping the forest would one day speak. Part 6. A family's vigil. In Yuba City, time became a wound that never healed. Imogene Weiher's home was a museum of her son's life, his basketball trophies gleaming on a shelf, his bed made with military precision. Each night, she lit a candle, its flame a fragile prayer against the darkness that had stolen Ted. Joseph Madruga haunted his own garage, where the absence of his son's car was a silent scream. He drove to Plumas weekly, standing where the Montego had been found, the snow now melted but the chill eternal. Bill Sterling's parents held prayer vigils, their voices trembling as they read from his Bible, its pages marked with his careful underlines. Jack Hewitt's mother, her hands shaking, pinned fresh posters to lampposts, her son's face fading in the rain. Sharon Mathias pored over Gary's letters, their words a labyrinth of hope and despair, searching for a clue to his fate. The town itself seemed to hold its breath. Yuba City, with its tidy lawns and faded storefronts, was a place where everyone knew your name, but now it was a graveyard of whispers. Neighbors brought casseroles, their eyes averted, afraid to speak of the boys. In bars, old men spun tales of the ones the forest took, their voices low, as if the walls might listen. For the families, the pain was doubled. Not only had they lost their sons, but the world seemed eager to forget them, to let their names dissolve into the wind. By 1979, the sheriff's office called off the search, the official report a cold epitaph. The forest will yield no more secrets. But for the families, surrender was not an option. They returned to Plumas, leaving flowers where the car had stood, their footsteps crunching in the snow, their hearts heavy with questions that hung like fog over the pines. Part 7. Echoes in the Silence. The Yuba County Five could have faded into obscurity, a footnote in a dusty file cabinet. But in the 1980s, a spark of interest flared. John Gould, a reporter for the Chico Enterprise Record, began digging, his articles a beacon in the dark. Why had the police dismissed Sean's testimony so quickly? Could local gangs, rumored to haunt Chico's underbelly, have played a role? His words stirred the embers, but the forest remained silent. In the 1990s, the internet gave the case new life. Early true crime forums buzzed with theories, their users dissecting every detail. The map, the candy wrappers, Matthias's missing pills. Some speculated about a serial killer stalking California's backroads, others about a cult hiding in Plumas's depths. A few analyzed the map's pencil marks, imagining coded routes to nowhere. But the threads led only to more questions, each post a cry into the digital void. In 2004, a local TV documentary marked the 25th anniversary, its grainy reenactments casting the forest in a ghostly light. Survival experts weighed in, suggesting a group psychosis driven by panic or Matthias's influence. But the unopened cans, the untouched heater, defied their logic. The case lingered in obscurity, a shadow among louder mysteries, its truth buried in the snow. Part 8. The Psychology of the Unknown. The disappearance of the Yuba County Five is a wound in the fabric of reason, a mystery that claws at the edges of comprehension. It lingers like a fog over Plumas National Forest, its tendrils curling into the minds of those who dare to ponder it. Why does this case haunt us, even decades later, when so many others fade into the archives? Perhaps it's the unbearable dissonance. 5 men, ordinary, flawed, bound by friendship and the simple joys of small-town life, plunged into a nightmare that feels ripped from the pages of a horror novel. Their story is a mirror, reflecting our deepest fears of the unknown, of losing control, of stepping into a darkness from which there is no return. To unravel this enigma, we must peer not only into the frozen wilderness where they vanished, but into the fragile workings of their minds, the society that shaped them, and the forest that became their crucible. The five, Jack Madruga, Ted Weiher, Bill Sterling, Jack Hewitt, and Gary Matthias, were more than their labels of special needs. They were sons, brothers, friends, each navigating a world that often misunderstood their struggles. Their cognitive challenges, ranging from mild developmental delays to Gary's schizophrenia, made them vulnerable in ways that the 1970s rarely acknowledged. In an era when mental health was cloaked in stigma, they were seen as different, their complexities reduced to whispers of pity or judgment in Yuba City's diners and church halls. Yet, in their own circle, they found strength, a brotherhood forged in shared laughter over basketball games, late-night drives, and the quiet comfort of routine. This bond, so vital to their lives, may also have been their undoing, a thread that led them into the abyss. Psychologists who have studied the case point to the phenomenon of groupthink, where fear, trust, or a dominant personality can steer a collective toward disaster. In the snow-choked darkness of Plumas, with the wind howling like a chorus of lost souls, the boys' vulnerabilities could have amplified their reliance on each other. Jack Madruga, the steady driver, might have deferred to a panicked decision to turn toward the mountains. Ted Weiher, gentle and trusting, could have followed without question, his faith in his friends a tether stronger than reason. Bill Sterling, clutching his Bible, might have sought divine guidance in the chaos, his prayers drowned by the storm. Jack Hewitt, young and eager to please, likely trailed his older companions, his shyness silencing any doubts. And Gary Matthias, his mind a labyrinth of shadows without his medication, stands as the enigma at the heart of the tragedy. Could his schizophrenia, unchecked in the wilderness, have cast a spell over the group, Is paranoia or delusions guiding them deeper into the forest maw? Gary's history offers chilling clues. A veteran of the army, he had seen the world beyond Yuba City, but his return was marked by battles within. His schizophrenia, diagnosed in his early 20s, sent him on aimless wanderings, nights spent under bridges or in strangers' yards, his thoughts a storm no one could calm. His family recalled episodes where he spoke of unseen threats, his eyes darting to corners where no one stood. Without his pills, found missing from his home after the disappearance, Gary could have been a vortex of fear, his voice, charismatic yet fractured, convincing his friends to follow a path only he could see. But this theory, compelling as it is, stumbles over the trailer's untouched supplies. Hunger is a primal force, a scream that drowns out even the loudest illusion. Why did Ted, wasting away in a shelter stocked with food, not open a single can? What held them back, as if an invisible chain bound their hands? The forest itself is a psychological predator, its vastness a canvas for terror. Plumaz National Forest, with its towering pines and suffocating silence, is a place where the mind frays. Hikers speak of disorientation, of trails that seem to shift, of a weight in the air that presses against the chest. For 5 men whose fears included the dark and the unfamiliar, Plumaz was a labyrinth of dread, its shadows twisting into shapes that whispered of danger. The cold, plunging to 10 below zero, would have dulled their thoughts, turning panic into a fog that clouded judgment. Yet the trailer's heater, its propane tank full, stood unused, a silent rebuke to survival's logic. Was it fear, confusion, or something darker that kept them from salvation? The 1970s context casts a long shadow over the case. In an era when disability was often equated with weakness, the boys were marginalized, their voices dismissed by a society eager to look away. Investigators, products of their time, may have seen them as simple, their behavior reduced to a narrative of inevitable failure. This bias, subtle but insidious, could have blinded the search, steering it away from the nuances of their bond, their fears, their resilience. The police assumed they were lost, a tidy explanation that ignored the map in the car, the half-full gas tank, the absence of tracks. What if the boys weren't lost at all, but led, by choice, by coercion, or by a mind unmoored, into a fate they couldn't escape? The case's psychological grip extends beyond the 5. For their families, it's a torment of what-ifs, a maze with no exit. Imogene Weiher's candlelit vigils, Joseph Madruga's drives to Plumaz, Sharon Mathias's locked box of letters. They are acts of defiance against oblivion, but also a surrender to grief's endless pull. For Yuba City, the mystery is a collective scar, a story told in hushed tones at bar counters and church suppers, its details warped by time into legend. And for those who stumble upon the case today, through a podcast, a forum, a faded newspaper clipping, it's a siren call, a puzzle that promises answers but delivers only questions. The Yuba County 5 force us to confront the fragility of the human mind, the power of loyalty, and the terror of the unknown. Their story is a warning that even the strongest bonds can lead to ruin, that the wilderness within us can be as deadly as the one outside. As we stand at the edge of Plumaz, peering into its shadows, we hear their echoes. 5 voices, forever lost, forever calling, forever unanswered. Part 9. Plumaz Today, a forest of ghosts. Plumaz National Forest looms over Northern California like a timeless sentinel, its vast expanse a tapestry of ancient pines, jagged peaks, and hidden valleys where the sunlight barely dares to tread. By day, it is a sanctuary for the restless, hikers weaving through trails carpeted with fallen needles, campers huddled around crackling fires under a canopy of stars that gleam like shards of ice, anglers casting lines into rivers that whisper secrets over smooth, moss-slick stones. The forest's beauty is intoxicating, its emerald slopes and crystalline streams a balm for souls weary of the world's noise. Yet, as twilight creeps in, Plumaz sheds its welcoming facade. The air thickens, heavy with the scent of damp earth and resin, the wind weaving a low, mournful dirge through the branches. Shadows pool in the hollows, stretching long and lean, as if the forest itself is stirring, its ancient heart beating with memories it refuses to share. For those who know its history, Plumas is no mere wilderness. It is a labyrinth of mysteries, its secrets locked in a vault of frost and silence, its key lost to the ages. The road where Jack Madruga's 1969 Mercury Montego was found on February 26, 1978, is now a paved scar cutting through the mountains, its asphalt gleaming dully under the overcast skies. But winter, relentless and cruel, still claims it, burying the path in snowdrifts that shimmer like bone under the moon's pale gaze. Locals call it the Lost Road, a name spoken in hushed tones, as if invoking it might summon the specters that linger in its curves. The spot where the car stood, half entombed in a blizzard, is unremarkable to the untrained eye. A clearing fringed by towering pines, their branches sagging under the weight of snow, their roots clawing at the frozen earth. Yet, for those who know, it is hallowed ground, a place where time seems to falter, the air thick with the weight of unanswered questions. In 2018, a group of volunteers from Yuba City erected a small bronze plaque here, its surface etched with the names of the five: Jack Madruga, Ted Weiher, Bill Sterling, Jack Hewitt, and Gary Mathias. The inscription, "Forever in Our Hearts," is weathered by rain and frost, the letters softened but defiant, a quiet rebellion against oblivion. Hikers who stumble upon it pause, their breath clouding in the chill, their eyes tracing the names as they wonder about the men who vanished into the night. But the forest offers no solace, only a silence so deep it feels alive, a presence that watches with unblinking eyes. The trailer where Ted Weiher's body was found has long since vanished, its rusted frame dismantled and hauled away, its foundation swallowed by a tide of ferns, moss, and wildflowers that bloom in fleeting defiance of the cold. The site, tucked in a remote corner of the forest, is a place of eerie stillness, unmarked by any sign but known to rangers who patrol the trails. They speak of a quiet that clings to the clearing, a hush unbroken by the chatter of birds or the scurry of squirrels. Some claim to feel a prickle on their necks, a sense of being watched, urging them to move on. Others report finding strange artifacts in the undergrowth: an ancient soda can, its label peeled away by time, a frayed rope coiled like a snake in the grass, a single glove, its fingers stiff with frost, as if reaching for something long gone. Are these relics of the five, fragments of a tragedy preserved by the forest's cold embrace? Or are they the detritus of countless others who have wandered Plumas's depths, their stories lost to the wind? No one can say, but the tales endure, whispered around campfires where the flames cast shadows that seem to writhe with the shapes of men lost to the snow. In Yuba City, 70 miles south, the passage of time has reshaped the town, its once sleepy streets now bustling with the hum of progress. Orchards and ranch houses have given way to strip malls and fast food chains, their neon signs flickering against the twilight, their glow a stark contrast to the darkness that lingers in the town's memory. Yet, beneath this modern veneer, Yuba City remains a place of quiet sorrow, a community that carries the weight of its lost sons like a stone in its heart. The basketball league where the five played still thrives, its gymnasium a cacophony of squeaking sneakers and cheering crowds. But their names, Jack, Ted, Bill, Jack, Gary, are spoken softly, if at all. Their legacy lives in the faded trophies displayed in a dusty case by the gym's double doors, their initials carved into a worn bench where players slumped during timeouts, their fingerprints smudged into the wood. For the town's elders, those who sipped coffee at the diner in 1978 or prayed for the boys in packed church pews, the case is a wound that time cannot heal, a reminder of a night when the world tilted and never righted itself. Sharon Mathias, Gary's sister, is one of the last living threads connecting the five to the present. Now in her 60s, she lives in a modest clapboard house on the edge of Yuba City, its porch sagging under the weight of years, its windows reflecting the flat, gray light of winter. Inside, her walls are a gallery of memory, photographs of Gary in his army uniform, his jaw set with pride but his eyes shadowed. Gary at a family picnic, laughing as he tosses a basketball, Gary hunched over a notebook, his pen scratching words that no one could decipher. Sharon's voice, when she speaks of her brother, is steady but laced with a grief that has settled into her bones. She grants rare interviews to local journalists, her words a plea that echoes across the decades. Someone out there knows something. Even now, I believe the truth is waiting to be found. She keeps Gary's letters in a locked cedar box, their pages yellowed and fragile, their ink faded but still legible, a map of a mind that wandered too far from home. Every February 24th, she makes the pilgrimage to Plumas, standing where the car was found, her breath mingling with the mist, her hands clutching a single white candle whose flame trembles in the wind. For Sharon, the forest is not just a place, it is a thief, a keeper of secrets, a mirror that reflects her loss in every twisted branch and frozen stream. The Plumas of today is a paradox, a place where beauty and dread intertwine. Tourists flock to its trails, their cameras capturing vistas that belie the forest's darker heart. But locals, those who grew up with the tale of the Yuba County Five, tread lightly. They speak of strange occurrences, lights flickering through the trees at midnight, voices calling from nowhere, footsteps crunching in the snow behind them only to vanish when they turn. Rangers, hardened by years in the wilderness, admit to moments of unease, their flashlights catching shapes that dissolve into shadow. Some dismiss these as tricks of the mind, the forest vastness playing on human fears. Others wonder if Plumas holds more than it reveals, if the five are still there, their spirits woven into the pines, their story a warning etched in the frost. The forest, with its endless silence and unyielding cold, remains a riddle, its truths buried deep, its whispers a call to those who dare to listen. Part 10. Shadows that Linger. The disappearance of the Yuba County Five is not just a mystery. It is a requiem, a lament for 5 lives snuffed out in a frozen wilderness, for families left to wander a labyrinth of grief, for a society that too quickly forgets its most vulnerable. It is a story that clings to the soul like damp cold, its questions echoing through the years like the wind through Plumas's pines. Jack Madruga, Ted Weiher, Bill Sterling, Jack Hewitt, and Gary Mathias were more than names in a case file. They were men with dreams, fears, and bonds that held them fast, even as the forest tore them apart. Their story is a mirror, reflecting our own fragility, our need for connection, our terror of the unknown. It is a call to look closer, to listen harder, to honor the lost by refusing to let their shadows fade. What happened that night, February 24th, 1978, when the Mercury Montego turned toward the mountains, its headlights cutting through a blizzard that would become their shroud? Did the boys lose their way, their minds clouded by fear and confusion, their vulnerabilities a chain that bound them to a fatal path? Did Gary Mathias, his schizophrenia a storm without his medication, lead them into a delusion that became their doom? Were they pursued, driven into the forest by a threat that left no trace but the pounding of their hearts? Or did they stumble into something darker, a force that lurks in Plumas's depths, its hunger older than the trees, its name unspoken even in whispers? The answers, if they exist, lie buried in the snow, hidden in the folds of a map, locked in the silence of those who know but will never speak. The case's legacy is a tapestry of pain and perseverance. For the families, it is a wound that time cannot close. Imogene Weiher's candlelit vigils, her rosary beads worn smooth by decades of prayer, were a beacon in the dark, a mother's refusal to surrender her son to oblivion. Joseph Madruga's drives to Plumas, his eyes searching the trees for a glimpse of his boy, were a father's pilgrimage, a journey with no end. Bill Sterling's parents, their Bible open to passages marked by their son's hand, found solace in faith but no respite from loss. Jack Hewitt's mother, her missing posters curling in the rain, fought to keep her son's face alive, even as hope slipped through her fingers. Sharon Mathias, with her locked box of letters, carries Gary's memory like a torch, its light dim but unextinguished. These acts of remembrance, small but fierce, are a defiance against the forest theft, a vow that the five will not be forgotten. In Yuba City, the case is a ghost that haunts the town's quiet corners. The diner where the boys once shared milkshakes, the gym where they chased basketball dreams, the streets where their laughter once echoed, their shrines to absence, their walls holding the faint imprint of lives cut short. The community, bound by shared loss, has woven the five into its lore, their story a cautionary tale told to children who venture too far from home. Yet, it is also a source of shame, a reminder of a time when the town turned away, eager to bury its pain beneath the rhythms of daily life. For those who remain, neighbors who brought casseroles, classmates who cheered at their games, strangers who read their names in fading headlines, the case is a call to reckoning, a question of what it means to care for those society overlooks. Beyond Yuba City, the Yuba County Five have become a symbol, a touchstone for those who seek truth in the shadows. True crime enthusiasts, from podcast listeners to forum sleuths, pore over the case, their theories a kaleidoscope of hope and dread. Some see a tragedy of human error, a group lost to panic and cold. Others imagine foul play, a stranger's malice hidden in the snow. A few, emboldened by Plumaz's eerie reputation, whisper of the supernatural, of a forest that claims what it desires. These voices, scattered across the globe, keep the case alive, their debates a chorus that echoes the family's pleas. Yet, the truth remains elusive, a flicker just beyond reach, a shadow that dances in the corner of the eye. The case's broader impact ripples through time. It exposes the fragility of those society deems different, the ease with which their stories are dismissed. In the 1970s, when disability was a stigma and mental health a taboo, the boys were seen as less capable, less worthy of scrutiny, less deserving of answers. This bias, woven into the investigation's fabric, may have cost them justice, steering the search toward assumptions rather than truths. Today, the case challenges us to see the vulnerable not as other, but as human, their lives as vital as our own. It demands we question the systems that fail them, the narratives that erase them, the silences that bury them. Will we ever know what happened to the Yuba County Five? Perhaps a clue lies in Plumaz's depths, a lost wallet, a scrap of paper, a footprint preserved in ice. Perhaps a witness, their conscience heavy after decades, will step forward, their voice breaking the forest spell. Or perhaps the truth is gone, carried away by the wind that howls through the pines, its secrets scattered like ash. But the five endure, their names a litany, their story a fire that refuses to die. Jack, Ted, Bill, Jack, and Gary, they are the shadows that linger, the whispers that call, the mystery that binds us to the darkness. As we stand at the edge of Plumaz, gazing into its endless night, we feel their presence. They are the flicker in the trees, the crunch of snow underfoot, the hum of a car abandoned to the cold. They are the questions that keep us awake, the truths that elude our grasp, the ghosts that demand we remember. Their story is not just a case, it is a reckoning, a reminder that the lost are never truly gone, that the shadows they cast stretch across time, calling us to listen, to search, to never turn away. Until the forest speaks, until the silence breaks, the Yuba County Five will wait, their voices woven into the wind, their mystery a flame that burns eternal. The snow has settled, but the questions remain, buried deep in the heart of Plumaz National Forest. The Yuba County Five, Jack, Ted, Bill, Jack, and Gary, left behind a mystery that burns like an ember in the dark, refusing to fade. Were they lost to the cold, to fear, or to something far darker? Their shadows linger, whispering through the pines, waiting for someone to hear their truth. You've stepped into the darkness with Shadow of Crime, where we uncover the stories that haunt the edges of justice. If this tale chilled your bones, if the forest silence left you searching for answers, don't walk away. Subscribe to our channel to join us for more journeys into the unknown, where every case is a puzzle, every truth a fight. Drop a like if you felt the weight of this mystery. Leave a comment, share your theories, tell us what struck you, or suggest the cases you want us to unravel next. Hit the bell, because in the world of crime, every whisper counts. Share this story with those brave enough to face the shadows. Shadow of Crime isn't just a podcast. It's a call to seek the truth, no matter how deep it's buried. Until next time, in the Shadow of Crime.